The Crypto Markets Update is presented by Grayscale, the world's largest digital currency asset manager.
Time for a live look at Bitcoin. The CoinDesk Bitcoin price XBX index is currently trading at 34,932. Bitcoin is up about 6.4% over the past 24 hours, and the CoinDesk Ether price ETX index right now at 2534. ETH is slightly up about 1.2% over the past 24 hours. And joining us now to discuss the crypto markets is Greg King, founder and CEO of Osprey Funds, a digital asset manager in Connecticut. Welcome to the show, Greg.
Morning, Christine. How are you?
Good, thanks. All right, so we're getting some bullish news out of El Salvador, but it's, since the news was announced in over the weekend, usually we would see, an announcement like this have Bitcoin and the crypto markets shooting up, but we're not seeing that right now. So I'm wondering if the market is undervaluing this news, or is it not that significant because it's a small country, or there are other factors at play, such as in China?
I think there's a lot of factors at play. I mean, this is certainly a significant announcement. I think if you go into behavioral finance and just apply some of the stuff people have learned around the stock market to significant news announcements that actually tend to be underdeveloped in terms of the market move. So it may take a little while for this really to sink in, the significance of what's happened with El Salvador. I also think, though, that Bitcoin as sort of a payment system, hasn't quite materialized the way that perhaps 10 years ago, people might have imagined it would have. So folks are not entirely sure what the ramifications of this are, but I think it's a very big deal, especially because it's not likely to be the only country that makes this move.
So that's right. I mean, this seems like something that could spread throughout the world. We're already seeing other countries in Latin America indicating that they're thinking along the same lines. But you said, sometimes this takes a little time to sink in, but that's not true, for example, of Elon Musk's tweets, right? Like Elon Musk tweets something and then, Bitcoin reacts or Dogecoin reacts immediately. So I guess the question is like, why are memes affecting the market more than actual policies that could lead to Bitcoin mainstream adoption?
Great question. I don't know that I have the answer. I mean, maybe it's the marginal, price takers who react to things like memes and so forth. I think the serious money will consider news a little more carefully than just kind of auto-reacting to whatever Elon Musk happens to tweet out on a certain day. But I think the roll forward of Bitcoin and its progress is demonstrable in this announcement. I think it's a good thing for the ecosystem. And I'm very curious to see how it plays out with some of the additional countries that are talking about it. We got to remember that Bitcoin is still a relatively new asset, and to see that sovereign nations are taking it seriously this way is huge.
Greg, along those lines, I mean, you were talking about the marginal price takers who might be, react so severely to, say, a tweet, but nonetheless, it moves the market somewhat. It moves the price. Do you think that's spooking away institutional investors, this whole meme aspect of Bitcoin and other cryptocurrencies, whereas the sort of fundamental things that you would see out of El Salvador might not move the market? You think institutions are looking at this and saying, wait a minute, this makes no sense. Maybe this isn't for us to put money in.
Sort of. I mean, I think that could be a reaction, but also the reality is you look at the volatility of Bitcoin. I mean, it's volatile. It has been for a long time. That hasn't changed. And professional investors look at an instrument like a Bitcoin, like any investment, in terms of the risk-reward ratio, right? The expected returns divided by the volatility, just to use a quick measure. And I think in that case, Bitcoin is still extremely compelling. So institutions don't tend to overreact to things like this. I think if there are institutions who were on the sidelines, I think they're probably looking at ways to get in now. That being said, of course, being down as much as 50%. From the all-time highs within just a few weeks, that's scary to people. And, as it should be. But at the same time, as of now, what are we, 35,000? I mean, Bitcoin is still up 75% above its previous all-time high of 20,000 that we crossed just at Thanksgiving 6 months ago. So it's really got to put it in context.
That's correct, Greg, but at the same time, if you're an institution, you don't want to be caught catching a falling knife, So it's a situation where they are looking at that, and the fact that it is down so much from that all-time high, and that sell-off seems to have been spurred on by these crazy tweets from the Tesla CEO. That wouldn't you think that would actually have a long-term negative impact on institutions? I mean, like what trading desks would want to propose getting into Bitcoin, for instance, if an institution has never been in it before, if there is this sort of risk factor involved that just throws out the fundamentals sometimes.
Yeah, I guess agree to disagree. It's I don't see the Elon tweeting risk as a new thing. I think that it's just one of the more recent examples, or forget Elon, just stuff happening in Asia over the weekend risk. Just different events having a significant effect on the price of Bitcoin is not a new development. So institutions that are doing their homework have to realize this, right? And in the sense that, so we're long-term bullish. We believe in the use case for Bitcoin. We believe that it's here to stay. And so to us, this represents a potential buying opportunity. If you're sensitive to, let's say, quarterly earnings statements or things like that, maybe as an institution, you're not looking at this. But institutions that are establishing a position tend to dollar cost average in, and this would be a good time to be doing some of that.
Investors right now.
Sorry, the audio cut out there. I didn't catch that.
Yep. So right now, Osprey has a Bitcoin fund. What kind of activity are you seeing currently from institutional investors?
So the Bitcoin complex is interesting. You obviously have Grayscale's fund, which is out for a long time. Our fund is a couple years old, but we only established a ticker for it in February and began trading. Right around that time, there were a confluence of events where Canadian ETFs launched. A lot of people started filing for ETFs in the U.S. because of Gary Gensler coming in. And so the whole complex started to trade at a discount. So from an exchange traded products perspective, it's kind of a new environment. What we are starting to see now, though, is where I don't know where our product OBTC is trading this morning, but it's been trading right around zero in terms of the premium, which is exciting to investors because then they don't have to pay a premium to get access to Bitcoin in an exchange traded format. So we have seen interest, although there was a significant amount of supply that went into Grayscale's product in the fall, and that overhang is still weighing on the market a little bit.